The worst job I ever had didn't involve cleaning toilets, answering phones, or even dealing with irate customers. It was worse. It paid well, the people were professional, but it was a horrible place to work. And I didn't see it coming. You might not either, unless you know how to find the signs. It was the one where there was absolutely no regard or concern given to the people who worked there. The owners thought that the way to motivate people was to give two people the same task and then see who could get it done faster and better. And top executives were given huge bonuses despite mediocre performances. To say that morale was low in this place would have been to pay it a compliment. And here's the brutal truth. You can walk into the most prestigious company and still end up in a living nightmare. I can attest to that from personal experience. Here's a six-step plan that you can use to help you identify the red flags I miss and avoid a similar very unpleasant experience. Now, here's a warning before we get started. If you think you see one of these signs, it doesn't mean run for the woods. You don't want to throw out the proverbial baby with the bathwater. You need to evaluate the entire situation. Now, let's start with the obvious but often overlooked red flag. Glassdoor reviews. Can you review them? Can you trust them? Red flag number one. Check out red flag. Maybe we should call this one an orange flag. Expect to find some negative reviews even about any company. Remember, people are more apt to post negative reviews than positive ones. It's a good way for them to vent or get even with an employer who they feel treated them poorly. Remember, though, that there are two sides to every story. Think about your own actions. Have you ever left a positive review for any employer who you were happy with? Also, often the review, whether positive or negative, is actually a reflection of that person's experience with their individual manager. And likely, you're going to have a different manager. That being said, you wouldn't trust a restaurant with a 1-star Yelp review. Why would you trust a job with the same? And just as you would with a restaurant or book review, look to see how many references there are. If there are 20 or 30 or more negative reviews, well, that might be telling you something. But if there are 3 reviews and 2 of them are negative, well, it's a possible sign, but it's not a definitive. So keep your eyes open. Red flag number 2. Assess your interactions during the interview. If the interviewer or hiring manager is rude during the interview, well, that should say something. This is especially important if the interviewer is the person you are reporting to. The rudeness could include taking or making unimportant phone calls during the interview, being late without a good reason, or talking disrespectfully to other employees who may interrupt the interview. You're getting a sneak peek at what your working life will be like if you go to work there. If you get the feeling during the job interview that the interviewer has no real interest in the answers to the questions, or if they seem preoccupied with something else, this could be another potential sign that they won't be a considerate employer. Always trust your gut feeling. And if you have concerns whatsoever, think twice about accepting the job with that company. The interviewer at my worst job that I referred to earlier did precisely that. I can remember sitting there while she was talking to our housekeeper thinking, if you don't get off that phone by the time I get to 10, I'm counting to 10 in my head, I'm going to get up and walk out. Now, obviously, I didn't say this out loud, and she got off the phone when I got to 8, so, I stayed. But my gut was right. I should have gone up and left. Red flag number 3. Ask about the turnover rate and the reason the person who had the job before you left, assuming it's not a new position, of course. Filter the responses through your looking glass of industry experience and the fact that you're probably not going to hear the unvarnished truth if it reflects poorly on the manager or the organization. If you interview several times with several different individuals, you might ask these questions of each of them to see if you more or less get the same response. Keep in mind, though, that in some industry, there tends to be a higher turnover of staff than others. That being said, too high a turnover might be a sign of a toxic work environment. And again, in this worst company that I worked for, one of the departments had a turnover rate of 100%. I don't care what's going on in your industry, an annual turnover of 100% is not a good thing. Red flag number 4, evaluate the questions the interviewer asks if you feel they are either inappropriate or illegal. These might be questions that have no relevance to your ability to perform the role to their required standards. So questions about, for example, your marital status, your sexual orientation, who you live with, your plans to have a family in the future, or how you would cope with a large age gap between yourself and your colleagues should give you some pause and make you look more seriously. Also, be aware that in the United States, anyway, in a growing number of states, they are not permitted to ask you about your current salary. Now, this varies by state, and hopefully at some point in the future, it will be considered unacceptable everywhere. However, we're not there yet. So another thing to consider, do they talk about work-life balance? And if they do they brag about crushing it? That should be a huge red flag if that happens. And I can't believe it would happen too often. Red flag number 5, review what was said during the interview and what was in the job listing. Do they use phrases like high pressure environment? Do they praise employees who are willing to go the extra mile, or employees who are willing to work through weekends? If that is what it takes to get the job done, do they speak glowingly of employees who prioritize their jobs over their personal lives, or perhaps who are willing to cancel a vacation when a work emergency arises? Do they speak disparagingly about concepts like work-life balance? Taken alone, each of these might not seem bad. But if you take a step back and evaluate, the employer is telling you what they value, and more importantly, what they will expect from you. They're also telling you who they are. When someone tells you who they are, listen. Do you want to work with somebody like that? Or more importantly, for somebody like that? Now, before we get to the last killer red flag, if you're getting value from this talk, please hit the like button. It lets us know we should create more content like this for you. Red flag number 6, analyze the job description to determine if it is vague or lacking in details. Since the job description outlines what you will be required to do, it is critical that you have a good idea of what that is before you accept a new position. If there is no job description, or if there is a lack of detail, it could be of an issue. Of course, today, most job descriptions include that ubiquitous statement at the end of the duties as assigned. So a vague job description by itself may not be a red flag. Just one more piece of the puzzle should your gut be sending off these negative vibes. Obviously, if you see one of these red flags by itself, you shouldn't immediately turn and run in the other direction. You need to evaluate the whole situation to determine if it's right for you. Avoiding toxic jobs is half the battle, but the other half, when you're on an interview, not accidentally blowing your shot at the good ones. I'll show you exactly what not to say in interviews. Click on the link that has appeared on your YouTube screen and is in the description. We'll provide you some insights on what not to say. Good luck.